This is Gravier Street. This is Slave Market Central. On this side of the block, in 1854, there are 5 separate slave traders, okay, on that side of the block. So that entire middle of that block in 1854 is slave traders.
A group of international scholars and teachers studying the slave trade recently accompanied author Walter Johnson on a walking tour of various sites pertinent to this important era in New Orleans history. Johnson, a professor of history at New York University, connected contemporary sites to the historical events recounted in his recent book, Soul by Soul, Life Inside the Antebellum Slave Market, considered the most comprehensive study to date of the business of slavery.
I think that a lot of people come to a place like New Orleans looking for history. And I think that New Orleans serves an important function in the American touristic imagination as a site of American history. Given that, I think it's enormously important that that portrayal be as accurate as possible. And so along with the beauty, along with the fantastic houses and the wonderful vegetation and the wonderful cuisine, I think needs to be told the story of the expropriation, of where the wealth came from. 100,000 people were sold in New Orleans alone between 1820 and 1860. And it's that sale complex which underwrites the Southern economy. Because when a slaveholder tries to go to a bank to get a loan, they're going to mortgage their slaves to get the loan.
A walking tour by a scholar of Johnson's stature is unusual. Tulane University's Deep South Regional Humanities Center brought the historian here as part of an international conference it co-sponsored with the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Johnson found the city's singular appreciation of its own past to be of considerable help in his work.
I think that one of the things that is produced out of the history of New Orleans is a wonderful architectural record of its own history. And so New Orleans is a city in which you can see, as if on an archaeological plane, you can see different striations, different levels of the past, one next to the other. Similarly, the documentary record in New Orleans is unparalleled in the United States South. The notarial system of recording exchanges led to a vast record about slavery, which Gwendolyn Midlow Hall, among others, has taken advantage of. The court records, because New Orleans fell so quickly in the Civil War, the courthouses weren't burned in the way that they were in many other southern cities, and so the court records are unparalleled. So it's a great place to be doing history.
Johnson hopes the reader will take from his book not only a deeper understanding of the shameful practice of using human lives as collateral, but a greater appreciation of the struggles of enslaved people.
Well, what I hope they don't do is I hope that people don't try to say that this is a New Orleans story or a Louisiana story or a Southern story. For me, it's very important to recognize that the history of slavery and the subsequent history of segregation are American history. But I think it's also a story that there's a story of people struggling to survive in circumstances of the greatest exigency. And I think that's an important story to be told as well. And so to try and hold on to those two parts of the story, both the brutality but also the human struggle and the survival.